But we were just talking about Edward Snowden, and I know we've debated Edward Snowden on this show, and I think it's not worth rehashing all of those debates. I would just say that where I think all three of us totally agree is that there's this ridiculous rhetoric about Snowden in Washington, because the reality is like when it comes to NSA stuff, these revelations have obviously sparked all of this discussion, and they've obviously triggered all of this push in Congress to reform reform the programs, bring transparency to them. So whatever else you say, he's the cause of everything happening. He's the cause of there potentially being actual adversarial view on the FISA court. He's the cause of Congress people starting to do their jobs. And he's the cause of Obama's press conference, even though Obama's just like, oh, look, 7 months ago, I said, I think we need to do something about the NSA program. And it was planned. It was perfect. And then this little prick leaked stuff. So he doesn't get any credit. What happened anyways? I'd be here speaking with you. They're just, you wouldn't see Glenn Greenwald on the TV all the time. That would be the only difference. That's it. Period. But it's interesting to watch people in Washington. I think a few people have made some of the distinctions that I have made that have pissed people off, that maybe there's some distinctions between different types of leaks. Although I have to say, all the leaks about the monitoring of Brazil and the EU, those are big too. These are really important things, okay? And then some people have been basically, I even saw Keith Ellison kind of say this the other day, like, yeah, Edward Snowden did all this and we're doing this because of him. But, when you engage in civil disobedience, you kind of be willing to face the consequences. And I don't know what kind of message that is to send out to this guy. How about I'm going to work in Congress to make sure that this guy isn't hit with absolutely draconian and insane charges when he has played a whistleblowing function that we're all moving policy based off of. But that's on one side of the spectrum. Other people have kind of ignored Snowden's contribution, and then other people, the really sort of out of the loop people, are searching for straws and ways of figuring out Edward Snowden and figuring out why people are sympathetic to him. So Michael Hayden, of course, that brilliant and very debonair and handsome former NSA head, has said that Michael Hayden is not that. Has claimed that Edward Snowden supporters are a bunch of young men who haven't been able to speak to the opposite sex. So that was one theory that was offered, and John McCain, speaking on Fox News Sunday, has offered another theory as to why young people don't trust government and why they support Edward Snowden. Let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that there's been failures throughout that has led to Mr. Snowden now being granted asylum in Russia. There is now a large percentage of Americans, particularly young Americans, who view Mr. Snowden as some kind of a whistleblower when we know that he betrayed his oath of office. There's a young generation that believe that he is some kind of Jason Bourne, and there has got to be more transparency.
I think he's more. I think Edward Snowden's more like Jeremy Renner's Bourne character than Matt Damon's Bourne character. But that's just me, McCain.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, that's just one viewpoint. I think he's more of a Damon personally. Well, at least that's an upgrade from can't talk to the opposite sex to McCain's theory. At least there's some improvement there. But I just think what's shocking about it is this complete inability, because he's saying two things there. First, he's saying young people don't trust government. And it's like, well, and I would add, because I think it's important to add with this show, it's not just government, it's the corporate sector, it's this kind of mass institutional failure we're living under, where we see banks get away with criminality, we see programs of mass surveillance that are distorted and misled. We see the director of national intelligence lie to the Senate. So distrust of institutions is not coming from some random place. It's coming from what anybody who's observing what's going on in front of their eyes every day would start to base some conclusions off of. And then number two, maybe some people are supporting and are sympathetic to Edward Snowden because he revealed information they want to know. It's not really that complicated. And it's a very perverse mindset that you have to go to this Jason Bourne thing to try to figure that out. So John McCain continuing to be clueless and continuing, unfortunately, a weird way, his brofest with Obama, because both of their comments about this have been totally clueless.
The real problem here is how the young people view Edward Snowden, not
That is the real
massive
problem.
NSA surveillance.
That's right. And that you don't trust the massive NSA surveillance because there's been any number of misleading and dishonest statements about it.
And I nominate.
But that's irrational.
And I nominate Edward Snowden to play the main role in the next Bourne movie.